Good morning and welcome to the Real Talk podcast from Andrea Castinetti's World Headquarters.
World headquarters, y'all. Shrewsbury, Massachusetts.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm someone who hangs out at the office occasionally. The office troll, if you will.
So you have a name though.
I do. It's Javon Weber.
And I'm Kelley. And I hang out at the office here once in a while. And we're here to talk to you today about when you sign listing paperwork.
Good topic.
Who are you actually signing that agreement with? If you're the listing person, not the agent, but if it's your house and you're signing an agreement, who are you signing that with?
Well, you're signing it with the brokerage.
The brokerage?
The brokerage!
No. They sign it with me as the agent.
They do, but who's responsible for you as the agent?
But the actual paperwork is with the brokerage.
That's true.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's with the agent. So what complications does that really cause?
In practice, I don't think it causes that many, to be honest, because people don't know it, but it doesn't come up very often unless there's a problem, or it depends what kind of brokerage you have. If you have designated or non-designated agency, you may run into...
Now you're starting to talk technical.
Oh, I know. I like to
now
do that.
We've got customers and all that looking at this. Tell me what the difference is.
Sure. So a designated agency office is one in which your agents are designated for you. If it's a non-designated...
Now, hold on a second.
Context clues say... No, because a non-designated agency, I'm going to get there. I have an example. Just wait it out. Hold the line. When you have non-designated agency, every agent in the brokerage represents you. So we have 32 agents here at Castinetti Realty, and if we were a non-designated agency, which we're not, but if we were, Gary gets a client, Gary signs a listing agreement with that client, all 32 of us now represent that client. So if I have a buyer for Gary's listing, for example, now we're in what's called dual agency. I'm going to be technical again, Gary.
Dual agency. I hate dual agency.
I think it depends on the situation, but there's lots of liability. And for the consumer, I would say, the buyers are the one I think to really beware on dual agency. So what that is, for people who might not know, is if I represent the seller of a property and a buyer comes in who doesn't have a buyer's agent, right? Normally I would say, hey, because we're a designated agency. So in this example, only I represent the seller. So I would say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, both, talk to Gary in my office. He can represent you as a buyer's agent. And if I don't do that, if I say, I want to keep you all to myself, I'm going to enter what's called dual agency. Well, in that example, I still work for the seller. My first and foremost loyalty is to the seller because they were my client first. And when someone is the client of an agent, the agent owes them their fiduciary loyalty and representation, and they owe everyone fair dealing and honesty, but they can't truly give loyalty to two different parties who are naturally on different sides of a transaction. So dual agency tends to be rather in the favor of the seller. From the buyer's perspective, you're really just facilitating the transaction.
I've tried to avoid dual agency because I work with Sue Gordon on a team. We will split up and Sue takes one party, I take the other, and we go back and forth. I have done dual agency if it's something that is very cut and dry, and you could argue correctly that it's never fully cut and dry. But if someone's buying a piece of land that's been there on the market for 10 years and they just want to write the offer and get it done, that's something where I have done that. But I think in general, I would recommend to sellers, no, don't let the agent do that. Why would an agent do that?
Well, an agent will get typically both sides of the commission. And in some cases, the listing agreement will stipulate that if the listing agent brings the buyer, they can get a varying percentage, which could be higher, could be lower, right? But it's variable. So
the negative side of me says it's greed. No, I'm just saying.
So, devil's advocate, because I always like to play the other side of whatever's being said. I would say that from a facilitating perspective, right, if there's no agent where I have to then have another link in the telephone chain, you get more direct, more efficient results. Could be one point in its favor, right? So I've found with commercial and with new construction that those tend to be a little more straightforward. And I'm personally more comfortable doing dual agency in that regard, especially, so take new construction for an example. You often, as the list agent, are the one needing to get their selections, manage the timeline. So you're very intimately connected with the buyers in that scenario.
Do you go to the selections meeting where they pick the colors and
yes, I do.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
One of the best parts.
No,
well, you have a teammate, so you guys can.
No, the thing is this: years ago, a girlfriend of mine said, "You have no taste."
Oh.
Now, I could debate that, but at the end of the day, I don't have that gene that allows me to look at something and say, "Oh, that's beautiful. That's exactly the right shade. That's exactly the right, burnished level of a piece of stainless." I don't do that. I can walk in and say, "This area looks nice,"
sure,
but I can't tell you how to do it.
But I bet you create a mean spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if I want, to talk about financial reconciling or something, you're my guy. So we all bring a little bit of different flavor. The
last selections meeting I went to was for new construction. And the guy that I was representing was kind of a friend of mine. And we go in and they're going through all the different options. And this is like a 3-hour meeting. Okay. And what he consistently said is, yeah, I just want what's here in the model.
Oh.
Time after time. They're going through every box.
He's like,
but time after time, this is what I want.
Right. That's actually, somewhat rare, right? I think the exciting thing about new construction for a lot of folks is to be able to, make those choices along the way. But
if you have that gene, and right. I would argue, like me, he didn't have that gene.
He's like, I like this right here.
Right. Yeah. This looks good. And by the way, it's designed presumably by a professional designer for the builder. And it did look good. And Absolutely. As I've gone into that complex, subsequently, a lot of people liked what the builder designer had done. Not everyone, but a lot of them did.
Yep, absolutely.
So when you do new construction, what role do you play?
So it depends what role I'm starting with, right? So typically, though, in my experience with new construction, I've been fortunate to be on the listing side. I say fortunate because you're fortunate to work on either side of any transaction, but especially with new construction, I find it fascinating to see kind of how the sausage gets made, so to speak, from taking the parcel, subdividing it into lots, watching those plans, and the kind of entire throughput of the process, which you don't necessarily get if you're representing a new construction buyer. So I say fortunate to have represented a lot of listings and some subdivisions in the area, and in a couple of those times we have done dual agency, but for the most part there have been buyers agents, and it's just so fun to be on the journey with them and see it start from nothing. I tell Andrea all the time that I'm just consistently
Andrea Castinetti,
the one and only Andrea.
She's the one that has her name on the building.
That she does on the door over there. It's kind of a thing with her. I don't know. Do you want to come make a cameo, Mama C?
I would love to.
Come on in, friend. You want to pull the stool?
I thought I heard my name.
You sure did.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
What are you talking about? Don't worry.
We're talking about listing agreements and dual agency.
Is she kneeling or is she?
I'm sitting.
Okay.
My quads aren't that strong.
So I'm going to stop the video.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
It was nice having you on the show. It was nice having
you.
a cameo.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Owner.
Yep. Thank you.
So I'm going to